morning, everybody.
Good morning.
I made the mistake of not asking for help with the Zoom this morning, and someone is in the waiting room. Terry, would you mind?
I can do this.
Just let people in,
Did we record already?
and we need to start recording.
Okay.
Thank you for reminding me. It's hard when you don't do something for a while and then you're getting back to it, right? Yeah, and there's so many things right now. Although I will tell you, we had almost 40 kids here today on our first day of our. Almost 40 kids here today for the first day of our. Yes, very, very happy. All right, so I came in a year ago, of course, and you guys have been doing Credo for a while before that. How long do you think you've been doing Credo?
Long time.
Long time, right? Decades?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So I wanted to take the time so that I can understand what you want out of it more and try to figure out who it is that we're getting to talk. And for anybody who hasn't ever been to a Credo presentation, in general, it's somebody's spiritual journey. So members of the church will come and share. Oftentimes they'll share kind of how their spiritual journey went over life, like what their religion of origin was, how they got to Unitarian Universalism. Sometimes we had one presenter who had a lot of instances where race played a part in his spiritual journey, and he was able to explain that both in his local town growing up and also as a professor. So all kinds of different kinds of presentations that we have. They generally last 15 or so minutes of talking and then 15 or so minutes of questions. And the transition to get down here is always, a little part of it. So they're only 30 minutes. And so I'm saying all this to say, explaining it to people who've never been to one before, but also explaining to everybody in case this conversation spurs something in your mind and you'd like to give, other than Karen, because you're already doing it in October, then you'd like to give a presentation, please let us know. If you gave one and it was pre-pandemic, it's okay. Maybe you'll have a different frame of reference today than you did back then, and you can do another one. So if anybody wants to, we'll talk about nominations in a little bit. So I wanted to start just by defining and giving the history of the word credo so that we're all on the same page. So the definition is a statement of the beliefs or aims which guide someone's actions. So a statement of the beliefs or aims or goals which guide someone's actions. It comes from the early 13th century, and it is the first person singular present indicative, because you wanted all that grammar, of credere, which just means to believe. So is there anything else that you think credo means other than what's been stated? Or was that just a good enough explanation? Yeah.
Just share with you. So, the kids here did come of age and they do their credo. And Jay spun it around. I thought it was interesting. He worded it, what do you give your heart to?
What do you give your heart to?
So I thought that's another good way to look at it.
Which I very much love. Because for some people with a religion of origin that maybe was a little more conservative or mainstream Christian, they have the situation where they relate that to a creed, as in a group of rules that you live by. And that is not, we hope that people who are in other religions believe in what they're being told. But in general, they're given sort of their belief systems, right? I'm not handing it to you. And that's something that we do not do. So, yes.
I did it a long time ago and I shared my poetry.
Oh, I like that. That is an excellent different way to do that. And that's what I'm looking for, some different ways. And it's great to talk about your life's journey and how it's gotten you to this point spiritually. That's always great. But if there's another way that you want to communicate it, I think that's great too. Any other things that are what a credo means? Yes.
Well, a little bit about how you got there. So you just said, what do I believe? But it's like, what's behind that, or what fed that belief?
Mm-hmm.
I love that. So what do you give your heart to and how'd you get there? Right?
Yeah, when I wrote a credo once and it was the end of something else I wrote, which was what we called my spiritual journey. So I wrote that, and then as I kind of explored that in my writing, I came to my credo, which was smaller, shorter.
So, yes, so in coming of age for our adolescents, they go through a process, or the UU coming of age process is akin to a bar mitzvah or a confirmation or those kinds of things in other religions. And in our coming of age, they explore what it means to be like life skills and why they want to live their lives a certain way as they're into their teenhood, beliefs and belief systems. Somebody said something on.
Yep,
chat.
sorry.
No, you're fine.
Yeah, Tom says, I like how you act on your values.
How you act on your values. Yeah, that's a really great way to say it too. So when the youth do that, I have forever wanted to do an adult coming of age class. And not just to figure out your credo, but also to have that sort of journey, because so many of us did not start as UUs. And so that process that they go through is different than just, because I know they've done a create your own credo class here before, but yes.
A coming of ages.
A coming of ages.
I know, as we've been talking, and you were talking about the youth, I was thinking, oh, I would really like that. Could I just like sit in the back?
Right, no, isn't that great? And like, even the whole thing, so they, not only do they talk about how they're living their life and their values and how it relates to their spirituality and stuff like that, but we talk about our history and how we're grounded in our faith, and they get to go on some kind of trip, generally, either to Boston or somewhere else, to do either service work, mission work, or learn our history, or both. And so it's just a really great thing that I think our adults miss out on who came to Unitarian Universalism as an adult. You don't get a chance to do that as much. So be looking for that on the horizon. All right, so tell me, what are your favorite things about presentations? It could be specific, like somebody said once this, or I like when people talk about that. Steve.
How they got to hear.
Right, okay. To hear meaning UUCC?
Yeah.
Like the variety in that stories, in the stories, they're so different.
I haven't seen any, but I am very visual, so I love pictures.
I like to learn more about people before their memorial service.
Tom says their history and values,
Their history.
their history and activities,
Oh, and active.
and activities.
So I like the varied ones that I've seen for me, have had this quality of, what's the word? Not enlightenment, but, awareness or realization. And so for me, there's a point for everybody in which they have some kind of realization. And usually that's a turning point in people's lives, and I'd love to hear about that. And that's kind of makes it meaningful to me to hear people's turning points. When do you find presentations meaningful? Like, what qualities of the presentation make them meaningful to you?
I like when people are vulnerable. That's make them.
That's the exact word I was about to say.
I was gonna say a similar word, authentic, which usually involves vulnerability.
Mm-hmm. Because, and here's why I'm bringing this up, and maybe it'll give you, if you think of some more things, is that we go to all kinds of things here, right? And we learn in some places and we hang out with each other in other places, but what we want to keep our mind on is how does this fill your cup, right? How is coming to Credo a part of your spiritual journey?
Mm.
And so I want to know what makes it meaningful to you, because I want to know why you keep coming back to these. So what else?
I guess, and I'm very new to this,
Yes.
I've just learned what Credo is in this
Yeah.
conversation, but learning someone's values and specifically, a term like truth or justice or meaning, what is that to them? And then if they can share that in sort of in a transformational way, your own values develop alongside them.
Very nice, yeah.
I think about too is like the actions that you take to refill, you talk about filling your cup, so kind of like what actions do you actually put into practice to refill your spiritual cup when it was drained?
Yes.
Well, the spiritual journey isn't over when somebody presents their credo,
Yeah.
or at least I hope not. So I think it's the idea of what's next is always interesting, is what is somebody, where are they now? Where are you now? So you were someplace else. If you came here, that means you left someplace. And where are you going? Well, we all know
Where you've been, where you are, and where are you now, and then where you're, I like that a lot, yes.
And we are now part of their journey.
Yeah.
Say more.
I think, I'll speak for myself, what role do I play in their journey now?
As somebody who's done the Credo before, can you say what you experienced? Or do you think that people became part of your journey? And
I've had a few people come up to me, whether it was moments after I was done or within the next week or two, and acknowledge what was meaningful to them, and in some cases created a collaboration as where we intersected, our journeys were intersecting, and how they wanted to follow up on that.
very, very nice. So yeah, so all the things that we do, oh, yes.
Tom has a really interesting point here. He says the speaker benefits more than the receivers. And I can agree with that. I can also say that if you haven't done one of these things, they can be very difficult, And I think that's, one of the things that I value about it, those over the last year and a half since I've been coming, is everyone has a story. Not everyone is comfortable getting up talking in front of people, but it's still very valuable to listen to those perspectives.
And I hope that we get to a place where we start to feel like it's more of
Conversation.
a conversation of talking to our community. And it's not, I'm gonna get up here and, whatever, that it's more about, here's what has happened with me, and I'm sure you can relate to some of that and that interplay.
It was all I could do not to do a PowerPoint presentation. Yeah.
Yes.
In that light, one thing that I've been wondering when was the right time to say is that with talking about vulnerability, it seems important also that if we're having these regular, which we are, Credo presentations, that the culture of the presentations be one of, it's a very safe, welcoming, holding of each other's space. So, because people are really talking about the center of their soul, the center of their life, times when it's been, and anything might happen in the middle of that conversation if they're being really authentic and they've really worked on that. And they should feel very safe in doing that. That would be a really wonderful
Yeah.
thing. And I'm not speaking to any past, I've only been here a couple of times because I usually can't come to this. So it's really nice.
Well, so what you just light bulbed for me is, excuse me, I usually do the intro, for the person. And one of the skills that I feel like I'm fairly good at is creating space for people where they do, and giving a container for whatever it is we're doing. And so I think it could be something that I could include that kind of brings everybody into a space where they're allowing for that safety. Because it does what I wrote down just a second ago about what makes them meaningful. I wrote down courage. So just the bravery to, I hear people say, I don't have anything to say, which is never true for anyone. Everybody has a thing to say, They might not want to do it in front of people, but were you gonna say something?
Yeah, I'm new here, but I just wanted to say like why I'm drawn to this, and that is because like the way I see it is we're all each other's teachers. And it's easy to come to like community or church and like listen to Amanda, but like it's all of you that I'm learning from, like, on a real level, and it's something about how that, like, levels the playing field a bit and makes us all a part of, like, growing and learning together.
Yes, yes, yes. I think Amanda's bringing in the year-long theme of home or homecoming. I think is gonna play a large role in sort of our culture shift. I think that we're trying to make a shift of less. I did this because of the camera today, but if I were not doing it for camera, I would have set up the room differently for this conversation. Because I want it to be less one person up front giving you information and more like dialogue and community. I mean, that's what our community is. And when we build a home, we hopefully build a safe space, a place where people can be vulnerable and a place where they can share of themselves. Are there things that you have not seen in Credo that you might be interested in? And it could be like about someone's life journey or past religion specific like that, or it can be general as well. Something that might be interesting.
And I think that if the person giving it is reaching down and deciding what parts to tell, that says something about the person that's very critical. So to organize it in a certain way, I think would take away some of the value.
Yeah, I had originally come in here to propose to you guys, what if we included the monthly theme in some way in people's Credo? And I realized that I'm not sure that that would be as useful. I think it would then start to narrow people's thinking, and I'm seeing all the head nods. And so like I have this sheet of paper with me and I'm just ignoring it because I just, as soon as I did that, I went, no, I think that's a good idea. I'm not even gonna do that. I'd be curious to hear from people who grew up in different faiths of origin. So I know so far we've heard of people who grew up in the Christian faith, and I've gotten to hear somebody who grew up atheist. And I've heard people grow up unchurched, but I haven't. It'd be interesting to hear people who grew up Jewish or who grew up Baha'i or Muslim or, you know, other faith traditions would be interesting to me. Anything else?
Steve's got.
Yes.
I like the theme of recovery from religion. So a lot of people that come here are come out, or say came out of a restricted religion. And I like to look at the theme of what was it about their old religion that damaged them, upset them, hurt them, and how this religion is freedom to them.
And also if they weren't hurt, because there are a lot of people who grew up in a Christian faith who got lots of good things out of it.
That's what I was gonna say. Sometimes it's a stepping stone.
Yeah.
It's not just, it's just the next step. You're not dismissing.
Right.
How you grew up.
Yeah, I think it's important to hear both sides of that
Right.
story, right?
It could go either way.
Because I know.
In case you're wondering about the sound, that's the Alpenhorns. They're practicing in the sanctuary.
Oh, okay.
It's the beginning of ski season.
Tom has a question, which I think we need to pose to Kelly, but says, do we encourage visitors at About Us, I think, which means you new to UUCC, to attend a Credo presentation?
I don't think that that's done in specific, but
Yeah.
it's not a bad idea.
Yeah.
I'm not sure, but I can check with Kelly.
We were encouraged.
Oh, excellent. Well, there you go. Yes.
Excellent. I was like, yes.
Well, there's always the open announcement during the service as well.
Yes.
Not that there's a specific.
But it is a good way
Right,
I mean, that brings up a good point of having people getting to know people.
Actually, it really is.
I
Yeah.
mean, this is a rich and very deep way that isn't just,
the
hey,
personal-
how you doing? It's coffee hour, yada, yada, you know, like this is
It's a personal story.
yeah, much bigger leap. I want to go back to something that Steve said at the end of what you said was how Unitarian Universalism is liberating, is basically what you said, yeah. And so I would love to hear more about that. So that's something I would love to hear more is about where you are now. So not just how you got to UUCC, but like, what does Unitarian Universalism mean to you? How does that, and personally, like, how does that, yes?
Yeah.
Piggybacking off of that, I would love to hear what people's thoughts are on where they want UUism to go.
Hmm.
Like, we're very fortunate to be in a living tradition. Many religions aren't. And so to kind of take advantage of that and see where people would love to see.
That's interesting. I think that could be very cool. All right, so we got about 5 minutes left. I'm gonna ask you one more question. Who would you like to nominate? Yourself is always an answer.
For,
Hmm.
for what?
To do a creative presentation.
Mm.
So anybody who you've talked to and they have an interesting story, or you've just met, you don't know anything about someone, and hey, I'd really like to hear it. Yes, Jen. Yeah.
I did one about 8 years ago, so I don't think it'd be too repetitive.
No, it wouldn't.
I would love to hear Peter Green and maybe Senna, people that grew up and are now adults in the UU faith.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's more, but those were two that.
Yeah.
Those are still very involved.
John Herrick.
Interesting.
I proposed to the staff that we all sort of do one, and it sort of fell apart. So I did one. And Kelly said she's done one before, as a member. But I don't even know if John was at that meeting, but Alicia doesn't want to talk in front of it, and she's not UU. So she, wouldn't want to talk in front of anybody anyway. And Belinda didn't want to do it.
I would, Kathleen Carpenter. I think,
It would be interesting to hear from her.
yeah, she started off as a member, went into staff.
Yeah.
And is now an active member on the board.
Yeah, no, that's great.
Before we run out of time, I would like to ask about the people's questions of the Credo presenter. Is it just okay to ask any question at all?
Mhm.
And is the Credo presenter free to say, I don't think I want to?
All right, so hold that for a second and we'll answer that. Let me go back to the nominations if I can.
Okay.
Yes,
This is not for a specific person, this is more hypothetical, but I'd like to hear from someone who doesn't have a defined credo yet. They're still kind of sloppily, messily figuring it out.
Interesting.
that's a lot of people, right?
That's an excellent point.
I think it's really important that we don't see like the first 3 Credo presenters be staff. I think
Oh,
it's
absolutely.
for people
Yeah.
everybody knows. I think it's important. It's important to have a variety of folks who are and backgrounds.
I worked really hard last year to get a variety of ages, like so we can get some different generations of folks. Rita, you were gonna say something?
So I've done mine twice. I didn't mind doing it, but I think, trying to get newer members. So my suggestions are, well, Ann Forcenito, who's been a longer time member. She's gonna kill me and throw something at me. And I'll say this, Shannon Bradley right there. Yeah. I'm thinking of all my hiking buddies. Helen. Former buddies. Helen.
Here's the drum roll, please.
Berhe and Connie Adams.
Okay.
And one more, Jeremy, he's a new member, Jeremy Malden, Mauldin.
So the hard part about new members, I mean, it's okay if they haven't figured out yet. But just, it's daunting to new members who feel like walking in the door here, right?
New members.
Yeah, so.
Yeah.
So we've done so much work in the last decade or almost decade, really what we focus on. And I've seen people really change groups. Like there's some people that are coming to mind now where it was like 10 years ago, it was like, oh my God, I can't believe you're saying that. So like wow, you've done a complete 180.
Uh-huh.
I can give you names of people that come to mind, but like, if you know of anyone that's
Yeah.
like 10 years ago was here,
Yeah.
because of the work we've done here, now they changed their mind. Someone that comes to mind for me is Bruce Wiley. I feel like he's come so far. And I think because of work in here.
Excellent. I think that that's really great because we want people, as we said before, we're not done on the journey when you give your Credo, right? Yes.
I've heard some of Bob Atwood's story, which is different, so I would recommend him. And is Ralph Hansen still a member? I know he moved,
Not a member anymore.
but you know, he and I have kind of butt heads in the past, and I would love to hear his background story. But if he's not here, just maybe some of our more conservative members, it'd be interesting to me to hear how they ended up.
All right,
Here.
great. So in a couple of minutes.
Can I
Yes.
say something to that?
Yeah.
Real quick, because I don't know them, so I don't know what you mean by conservative, so I could be totally off base here. But this is a platform for giving people, and I think it's very important to be careful about who we platform and what values and ideas we platform. So like I said, it could be nothing, but it's just these are things. Just wanted to.
And I think there's a difference in a differing of belief and being outside of the values that we espouse. Right? Yeah. All right, so with a couple of minutes, you ask about questions. I think questions are always good. I always talk to the people about being prepared for questions. It is a good thing that you said I should also prepare them if they're asked a question. It is okay to say, I don't know, or I don't have an answer for that right now.
Because Tom Bowers asked the question not too long ago, Tom. You said, which of the 7 principles is most important to you and why? That was the question. I thought, gosh, I mean, geez.
Some people would have an easy answer for that. I mean, you know, it's not.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What are the
And others would be
principles?
I know.
Was there something else from Tom?
He was responding when we were asking about who he would nominate. He suggested potentially an ex-member if they would be. It would be interesting to hear if they were willing, maybe their perspective of why they stepped away.
I think it is. I think we do members.
Yeah.
I think we stick with current members. I understand the thought behind having an ex-member, but I think that is, to Catherine's point, going in a direction that this platform is not necessary. All right, so if you're asking questions, yes, be aware that we've tried to create a safe space, and be aware that people don't answer them, but I have found that the people who are able to be vulnerable and authentic generally continue that when they're answering questions.
I think you can authentically say, I prefer not to respond to that.
Absolutely.
Question.
I don't have an answer I want to share.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, it doesn't have to be contentious or anything. You can literally just be like, no, it's not an answer I'd like to share.
Do you like to know ahead of time a little bit of the flavor of what a person is going to talk about?
Nope.
So be surprised.
I mean, I get to know them a little bit, and so I have kind of an idea of like where they come from and what their bio is and how long they've been a member and that kind of stuff. So I would be at least in some way aware. But in terms of what I might start doing is in the invitation, I might include that there are different ways to do this presentation. Unfortunately, slides are not available right now because of the way that we have to record, and we have like this space in the camera. We have a new camera, and it's called an Owl Labs camera, and it actually moves to whoever's talking. And that might give us an opportunity to turn around where we can record through the Owl camera and still have a presentation on the thing. So that might be able to happen, but as for right now, images or pictures are hard to have. And it's not that I wouldn't want people to do it, but I don't want people doing a PowerPoint presentation, right? They have artwork or something that informs their spiritual journey.
Right.
that's a different thing than in 1952, you know. Any other questions? Great. This is something that I'm trying to do in several places right now with my teams and with groups of people like this. It's something, I'm not a big fan of the term brainstorm. When I have a brainstorm, it means my head hurts because I'm thinking too much. So I use the words generative share. So I'm doing this in several places because what I want to do is, it's my job to kind of coalesce all the things that you're saying and try to give you things that are going to fill your cup and things that you need and also things that you want. And so it's good to have the feedback so that we know what direction we're going in. So I thank you for your time today. And I'll see you next month when Karen will be our presentator.
Excellent.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.